We live in an age of constant surveillance, right? I mean, pretty much everything is tracked. So how on earth can a 200-ton airliner with 239 people on board simply vanish? In this explainer, we're diving deep into the enduring mystery of Malaysia Airlines Flight 370.
Yeah, for over a decade now, that's been the central question that has just stumped everyone. Think about it. We live in a world of constant connection, yet a massive Boeing 777, one of the safest planes ever built, disappeared from the sky, leaving behind nothing but a profound and really unsettling silence.
And it's so important to remember this isn't just about a missing machine. It's about the 239 souls on board. That's 227 passengers and 12 crew members whose journey just ended in a complete and absolutely terrifying unknown. So let's go back to the beginning. It all started on March 8, 2014. Flight MH370 takes off from Kuala Lumpur, Malaysia. It was supposed to be a totally standard 6-hour overnight flight to Beijing. You know the kind. For the passengers, it was a quiet journey, a chance to sleep or watch a movie. And for a little while, everything was perfectly normal. The plane climbed up to its cruising altitude of 35,000 feet, no issues. But then, right at this really critical moment, the handover point between Malaysian and Vietnamese air traffic control, it just blinked off the screen. The last words ever heard from the cockpit, they were so calm, so routine. "Good night, Malaysian 370. That's it. But the plane never checked in with Vietnam. Just moments after that completely normal-sounding message, poof, it was gone from civilian radar. So, naturally, with all communication gone, the world assumed the worst. It had to be a sudden, catastrophic failure, right? The search and rescue teams immediately swarmed the South China Sea, which is exactly where its last signal came from. Everyone was convinced the wreckage had to be there. But here's the thing. That initial assumption, it was completely 100% wrong. While the entire world was looking in one place, a whole different kind of radar had picked up something that would turn this entire investigation on its head.
Okay, so to get what happened next, you need to know about two kinds of radar. First, there's civilian radar. Think of it as a cooperative system. It's having a conversation with the plane's transponder. If that gets turned off, the plane just goes dark. Then you have military radar. This stuff is non-cooperative. It actively bounces radio waves off anything in the sky. So even if a plane goes silent, military radar can still see it, but only as a ghost, just a moving dot with no ID.
So, days into the search, Malaysian officials dropped a bombshell. Their military radar data revealed something shocking. The plane didn't just fall out of the sky. No way. It made a sharp, deliberate U-turn and flew back across Malaysia, heading out toward the Indian Ocean. And get this was not an accident. The turn was so tight, it had to be flown by hand, not by autopilot. And the new flight path? It was meticulous. It carefully skirted the edges of Malaysian airspace, avoiding Thai and Indonesian territory. This suggests whoever was flying knew exactly what they were doing and was actively trying to disappear. After the plane flew out of military radar range, it was invisible again. The investigation seemed to hit another dead end. But then, an engineer at the satellite company in Marsat found something incredible, a series of faint electronic whispers the plane had left behind. It turns out, even with most of the communication systems off, a satellite terminal on the plane rebooted and started sending these automated hourly handshakes to a satellite. These signals had no data in them, no location, no speed, but they were proof positive. For hours after it vanished, the plane was still powered up and it was still flying. And this is where the real genius-level detective work kicked in. By measuring the round-trip time of each handshake signal, analysts could calculate the plane's distance from the satellite. But with only one satellite, they couldn't know its direction. This meant the plane could be anywhere along a massive arc on the Earth's surface. And incredibly, the plane sent 7 of these hourly pings. 7! These created a series of 7 arcs. And when you plot them on a map, you get this eerie, ghost flight path. It showed the plane had flown steadily south for hours over the vast empty Indian Ocean until it presumably just ran out of fuel. For that very last ping, investigators used the Doppler effect. You know this one. It's why an ambulance siren sounds high-pitched as it comes towards you and then drops as it goes past. The frequency of the plane's signal changed based on its movement relative to the satellite.
An analysis of that final signal's frequency shift suggested the plane was in a rapid final descent into the ocean.
So that seventh and final arc gave investigators a target. But it wasn't a neat little X on a map. It was a massive line in one of the most remote parts of the entire planet. And this is what sparked one of the largest and most expensive search efforts in aviation history. For years, ships with advanced sonar scoured a vast area of the ocean floor. They found nothing. Then, in 2015, a piece of the plane's wing, a flaperon, washed up on Reunion Island, thousands of kilometers away across the Indian Ocean. It was the first physical proof of the crash, but the main wreckage? Still lost.
And the price tag for that initial search? Over $160 million. I mean, that is a staggering amount of money, making it the most expensive aviation search ever. And yet, after all that effort, the core mystery remained unsolved. But even when the official searches were called off, the mystery of MH370 just refused to die. A really dedicated community of scientists, engineers, and amateur sleuths just kept going, poring over every last scrap of data, absolutely determined to find an answer. One of the most compelling new theories came from a British engineer named Richard Godfrey. He used something called WSPRnet, a global network of amateur radio signals that act like invisible tripwires. He proposed that as the massive plane flew through this network, it created tiny, measurable disturbances. By analyzing years of data, he plotted a new flight path that largely confirmed the satellite arcs, but with way more detail.
And this leads to another huge debate. Did the plane just fall out of the sky after running out of fuel, which would create a big debris field? Or was someone actively piloting it into a controlled glide? A controlled ditching could explain the lack of floating wreckage because the plane would have sunk largely in one piece, a perfect final act of concealment.
You know, finding that first piece of the wing was such a profoundly important moment. Of course, it was devastating for families clinging to hope, but it grounded the mystery in a tragic reality. It proved the plane had crashed, silencing the wildest conspiracy theories and shifting the focus from "where is it?" to "why did this happen?" This quote really captures the story of MH370 perfectly. In the absence of facts, imagination ran wild with all kinds of theories. But slowly, painstakingly, knowledge began to replace that imagination. The methodical analysis of satellite data, Doppler physics, and radio waves, all of it has brought us closer to the truth, grounding the mystery in science.
And now, the search might be on the verge of resuming. The Malaysian government is considering new, no-find, no-fee proposals based on these refined theories. The unyielding efforts of researchers may finally guide ships to the plane's final resting place. The world still waits, hoping that after a decade, human ingenuity can finally solve this profound mystery.